So now that our gusset is completed, we can sew the side seams, and you just turn it so that the right sides are together. And you can pin this seam and stitch it together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm gonna do the same on both sides. So when you're sewing the panties with a hip ruffle, the assembly is a little bit different than the other ways. The other ways you'll sew the elastic before the side seams. Okay, I'm just going to serge those edges. There we go. You might be thinking that these look gigantic, which they do, but trust me, once we get the elastic around them, they'll shrink right down. So I'm going to turn these right side out. And I've already gathered up my ruffles. So what I do is I just find roughly the halfway point. And I'm going to just pin this on. I don't have any scientific method for how I do this. I just pin it on where it looks best. And I really feel like that method is the best way to do things. Sometimes eyeballing is the way to go. You just want it to be even over the front and the back. That's the main goal. Okay, so now that is pinned on, I'm just going to baste this on using my sewing machine. Okay, so that's our ruffle. And I'm going to do the same on the opposite side. So I'm going to do this part on my sewing machine using a zigzag stitch, but you could also do this using your serger. I'm taking just regular elastic, that's about 1/4 inch wide, and working on the inside. I'm going to start at this gusset seam on the back. I'm going to use a zigzag stitch. I'm just going to anchor it on with a little back tack and then pull on the elastic as you zigzag stitch it on. So with this style, because the fabric is not stretchy, you're actually going to want to pull on the elastic quite a bit. It's a little different than sewing a knit pair of panties. So I'm actually insetting my elastic a little bit, just because I want to make sure that I catch the edge of my ruffle as well. So don't worry about being too precise with this part. The main thing is that you keep the tension on the elastic even across the entire leg. I'm just going to overlap the elastic here, and I'm going to back tack and just cut it off, because this part is actually going to get folded under. So there you can see that really starts to shrink things up a bit. So at this point you can trim this back. You could serge over this area, or you could just leave it if you wanted to, or pinking shear it. Just be careful not to cut your elastic. I'm going to just send it through my serger really quickly to clean up that edge. Okay, so you can see I've just serged around there, being careful not to cut into the elastic. And then at this point, we're going to turn this under and zigzag stitch again. So turning the elastic under and folding it so that the edge of the elastic runs, kind of creates that fold line for you. I like this finish. It's a nice clean finish with the regular elastic, and regular elastic is easy to get. Any kind of narrow 1/4 inch or 3/8 inch elastic will do. So this area gets pretty thick, so just go slow. There it is. This needs a good press. But now it's got a nice elasticized edge, and I'm going to repeat that process on the opposite side. Okay, so I finished the elastic on both sides, and I've given them a nice press, and they're basically almost done. At this point, all we have to do is finish the waist, and the waist can be finished in the exact same way that we did the 2 leg openings. So again, we're working from the inside, so the wrong side of the fabric. I start at a side seam, and I'm going to use a zigzag stitch. Anchor the elastic on with a back tack. And pull on the elastic as you zigzag stitch it on. So I like to use this zigzag stitching as basically like a basting stitch to just anchor it on, and then I serge over top. I find I get the nicest finish that way. So at that join, you just overlap the elastic and back tack over top, because that gets hidden once we fold it under. So I'm just going to really quickly serge that edge. So I've serged right over the elastic without cutting it. It just kind of tidies up that edge. And now we fold the elastic under towards the wrong side and just top stitch with a zigzag stitch. You want to keep a nice sharp edge along that upper edge. So I do that by kind of pulling the fabric down and wrapping it tightly around the elastic. feel like this finish is a little trickier than using like a picot edge elastic. And that's it. Now we have a pair of ruffly silk undies.